My early influences playing. I really started out as a drummer, really, and I started out as a drummer, and I was doing lots of gigs around Manchester, and then I got a job in quite a really large music shop in Manchester, and then I started to meet more people and listening to lots of different kinds of music, and then I discovered percussionists more. Fergus?
How did I get into it? I just always wanted to hit things, I think. I just never wanted to do anything else, to be honest. And same thing, I wanted to be a drummer. I went to 2 concerts when I was young. I went to see Queen. I remember Roger Taylor coming out front with his little bass drum and a tambourine and doing a kind of quasi unplugged thing, which really appealed to me. The other gig I went to was Buddy Rich at the Croydon Fairfield Halls, and those 2 things I think set me on the road to ruin, really. I mean to what I'm doing. And you, Pete?
Yeah, well, I started going. I was into the punk thing. I was a late starter at 19, and then I was walking past a drum shop one day and saw an advert in the window, so went and had drum lessons, and then got into that, and then discovered percussion by chance. Discovered tabla and the whole world of Indian rhythms and
absolutely. Yeah.
And that, once as we all know, once you get into that sort of thing, it's like
that's a whole lifetime.
Yeah, it is a whole lifetime study.
Luckily, I'm really old, so.
Yeah.
Miles, how about you?
Listening to my dad's records and picking out initially listening to the drums, but then starting to want to understand what was happening in the background, the little noises that were going on. When I actually started as an alto player. And
did you? Wow.
Yeah, but I was sort of like smacking it and hitting it rather than blowing it. I kept wanting to see what the keys would do. But yeah, more and more listening to Art Blakey records and whatever, and the Latin stuff that my dad would play, and I was like, what are the other things that are working around the drums? So that kind of was my, I was like, I want to know what that is.
Yeah. So
that kind of got me going.
The weird thing is about me is my mum and dad, the same as when you were saying about your mum and dad's records, my mum and dad used to play a lot of Motown and Earth, Wind and Fire. So on a Sunday morning, I remember getting up and listening to that. That would wake me up, and I'd always listen. And the weird thing is when you're young and you always check who's on the album covers. It always seemed to be more or less the same kind of players. People like Paulino da Costa. So it was Paulino da Costa or Ralph MacDonald or those guys. Eddie Bongo Brown. They always seem to be the same kind of people on those records, and that's what I sort of aspired to want it to be.
Absolutely.
We didn't have any music when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, nothing. Virtually nothing until I got into the punk thing. That was my first kind of exposure to any music. So I was kind of like
Amazing that being a punk thing though, and then turned into an Indian thing.
Exactly. That's left field. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
It really is.
I think it's good to have an open mind. I think it's one of the things that bonds us as percussionists now is this creative open mind approach to.
Yeah.
Absolutely, everything is potentially percussion. Yeah. It's just like a huge vast world.
Yeah.
It's never ending. I know it's a nightmare trying to play it all.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of worms. Yeah. Yeah.
What appealed to me was taking up percussion instruments because I was surrounded by really good drummers, and I wanted to play along with them. So to understand, I think that there's a lot of drummers that think they can play percussion, and when you get into that, playing percussion, picking holes and space in between what a drummer's doing, it becomes a whole different thing. And for me, it was a great opportunity because I got to play with loads of great drummers, and I still do, I get to play, and I'm playing percussion, so even though I play a little bit of kit still, I'm known as a percussionist and it's great because I get to play with all my friends and people that influence me, What about you, Miles? Who do you think?
Yeah, I'd say that the same thing. I was kind of fascinated at how I was going to work with the drummer. I mean, I was listening to both, but I went down the percussionist path initially, but I wanted to find a way to complement the drummer. I mean, I know it could go, there's more to that, but just learning to find the spaces and hanging out with great drummers and understanding what they're doing. I kind of knew I was going to head towards the kit as well. Yeah. So I thought, what better way? Yeah. So yeah.
I was a bit of a hermit, really. I guess I did the drum set thing, and then I kind of got into the Indian thing, and I'd literally just focused on that for 6 years. And so it was quite a long time into my development that I started, working extensively with other percussionists in the way that you would in the West, because in the Indian thing is a lot of unison stuff. So if you get a group of tabla players or whatever together, they play unison parts together, not like the interlocking stuff that you find with either between a drum set player and a percussionist, or groups of percussionists.
Yeah.
What about you, Fergus?
I think I was more kind of into drummers that were very percussion based. So I was kind of really into Bill Bruford when he was doing a lot of that kind of, and he had unusual setups. I remember he had a table full of Simmons pads. They're all tuned melodically. He used to play across it.
Really.
Yeah, and the guitarist used to stand on the other side and used to play across each other. It was very visually entertaining as well. And Stuart Copeland I was into, who was obviously a very percussive drummer and full of offbeat rhythms and different types of sounds, a huge dynamic within the kit, which always kind of appealed to me as well. But people like Airto and then I looked to people like Danny Cummings, people like that, who had a lot of fantastic pop gigs at the time, and I thought, well, that's a way out. I can become a pop star without being a pop star. I can travel around the world, make loads of money, and meet lots of nice women, and drink too much, and it worked. Yeah.
I mean, growing.
Once you moved on from trying.
No, I haven't. I'm still on that. There's a lifetime in that.
I wouldn't mind, but I've been on tour with him, and he hardly drinks when he goes out. Anyway, I think for me as well, that the same thing. Growing up, I was totally inspired by Louis Jardim, Danny Cummings. Everything that came out on record in London seemed to have Louis Jardim, Danny Cummings, Miles on it.
Frank
Ricotti, certainly. Ray Cooper.
Ray Cooper.
For westernised music, I mean, I remember somebody gave me an audio CD of Miles doing loops with Danny, which really got me into wanting to play those parts, and I'd play along with them with my drums, and I'd really understand some of the how things would lock in. So for me, three influences right here for me, really.
Ditto.
Absolutely.
I think we're all watching each other, weren't we?
Yeah.
There's always something to learn from what's happening over there.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? How it slots together. How even whether it's two percussionists, three percussionists, or a drum set player and a percussionist, how the parts slot together with frequency or density, and rhythm choice, rhythm variety, or straight. There's all so many considerations.
Absolutely,
and colours. Which is the way I see things in colours a lot of the time as well.
Nice.
When I'm playing something, or if they ask me to do some overdubs, I see things in colours rather than see things in sounds. So certain instruments reminds me of a colour. Maybe that's just me, but there you go.
I like that.
Yeah. Right. Moving on from that, first sort of gig. What did you sort of do first gig?
It was a punk band, smashing my drums up at the end of it.
Fantastic.
And the whole, shebang.
Fantastic.
One groove at the various buff chat at numerous different tempos.
That's all I know to do. That's all I know to do.
I consider that versatile at the time, to be honest with you.
But that was one of the things that was so different back then than is now. If you wanted to be in a band, there was that kind of new wave punk ethos that anybody could pick up an instrument and play.
Yeah.
With no knowledge, you just sat down, and the fact that you didn't really know what you were doing, you kind of listened to music, and you'd invariably make mistakes. Yeah. But that would maybe become part of your character.
Absolutely, yeah.
Rather than kind of this kind of... I mean, YouTube is great for many reasons, but you often, if you want to learn how a fill was done, you just YouTube it, and there's like endless amounts of people showing you how to break it down, and you're instantly doing it correctly, which perhaps takes some of the individuality out of it.
Yeah, and the personalities. The thing about, you go back to, you look at players like Budgie and
the guy
who did the first Adam and the Ants album, and all those, they were so unique, such unique
that's right.
personality players.
Yeah.
Things that get ironed out a little bit with technology.
It's true.
What was your first sort of gig, Miles?
Well, I mean, I've got literally my first school gig, at sort of 12, and I was the one standing there and thinking, I'm not even going to be able to walk on the stage, terrified. But then the rest of the band, the drummer threw up,
Oh, really?
So one of those ones. So that's the kind of school experience. But I did it, and I got through it. But I can't think what my first... There was wine bars when I was about 15, 16. I was doing sort of Latin gigs and stuff like that.
Percussion or drums?
Percussion, yeah. I mean, it's all percussion up until about 19 or 20, and then I was quietly trying to shed the drums and get it together, because basically a couple of very dear friends were kicking my butt, saying, that's what I was saying earlier, you know, they were just like,
there's not going to be a percussion chair soon.
Well, yeah, learn some 2 and 4,
Yeah.
have it in, I can call you for other work, you know, expand your vocabulary, and also my fascination with how I'm going to work with the drummer and kind of explore that by actually playing the 2 and the 4, and how I'm going to work around that, have a bit more understanding of what they're doing, which I think we should all do. You know, I try and do that with singers, you know, try and actually, I can't sing, but I will sing through a song sometimes and just try and understand what that's about, and actually what my role is. You know, it's sort of, I've learned all those things because of wanting to play drums and understand what a drummer's having to do. So
the interesting thing about that as well is that it's, you know, if you're just focused on one instrument, like, you know, either drum set or percussion or whatever, you don't necessarily hear it from the outside. I remember when I first started putting projects together, where I wasn't playing drum set, and realised that actually, and that was the thing with Bill Bruford actually, is that during the, you know, writing and performance, you know, moments, you didn't really focus at all what the drum set player was playing technically, because it was all about what was being generated with the music, which is a different abstract than, you know, being, you know, so completely focused just on one element of music. And, you know, what you're saying there is like learning and taking part in different elements of the music making spectrum broadens your whole approach to the instrument, whatever instrument.
As best you can, try and understand what others are doing in the room, you know, like that just starts to open your ears.
Yeah.
What's my role? What can I do to expand the music, and appreciate what everyone else's role is, what they're having to do to make this move forward, you know.
And maybe that's more appropriate for percussion, because your role isn't always concrete.
Exactly.
You know, if you're a drummer, you're invariably going to play 1 and 2 and 3, 4.
Yeah, exactly,
So you're often trying to slot yourself in and find where there is space and what the music needs, what it's lacking, how you can enhance it.
Well, I started listening closely to guitarists, particularly because of the percussive element. I'm like, okay, my instrument's not a million miles away from guitar.
Yeah,
so like in studios, I'm sure you've all had the same feeling. It's like, what am I interrupting? What, you know, you can play a conga part and you realise there's a really nice guitar part. Well, I've got to kind of maybe work around that a little bit. But it's only when I started to think that way, having played a bit of kit and realising, you know,
and what frequencies are going to work within that, of course.
Exactly,
And leaving space.
And finding the space, actually, finding the gaps where you can play.
What about you, Fergus? Your first gig?
First gig was probably at school, but I think a lot of the gigs I got initially came out of the back of Melody Maker, you know, which was the kind of go-to place for I remember auditioning for Zig Zig Sputnik. Do you remember?
Did you?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
And you know, I went in the room. There's just
that's an exclusive.
A kick drum and a snare drum and a hi hat, and that was all there was. And I was about 15, you know. Wow. And I went in there and they just put on this track at huge volume. Of course, yeah. Great. Hair was and you know, played the track, and they came out and they said to me, "You must have had a troubled childhood, the way you're hitting those drums." and I didn't get the gig, you know. But one of the first professional gigs I did get was out of the back of Melody Maker. It was a band called 3MI, and I kind of, you know, just went from there.
When I came to London, it was Melody Maker was on strike for like 9 months. It's like really annoying.
So that was the end of
it. I was just looking at the back of Melody Maker for equipment as well.
Yeah.
I mean, my first set of congas came out of the back of Melody Maker, and I remember answering an advert and going to Notting Hill Gate, and the congas belonged to Mick Jones from The Clash.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, he was in this smoke-filled studio in the basement. They kind of opened the door and I couldn't see him, you know. Wow. But I walked in, oh, Mr. Jones, got a set of congas, please.
Cool.
Yeah, so,
wow.
Yeah, it's funny.
Fantastic.
What make were they?
Natal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Natal. Alan Sharp, yeah.
I mean, gear-wise, the first congas I got were a present from the very dear George Frederick.
Oh yeah.
When he worked at Pearl, and it was Afro percussion, and I got a gig playing percussion in a house band at the Ritz. So it was the house band was by Mecca, I think it was top rank then. It was like working every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, every weekend, so I didn't really have any social life, but I was a lot younger then anyway. And playing in the house band, and what we did was 3 sets, and it was the highest chart climber. So whatever we did that weekend, we had a great house band, great musicians in the band, and great singers, and we just covered. So we did a load of Motown, a load of everything, you know, and then it was just a free for all. It was like a cattle market. So basically, I needed some drums, and George very kindly at the time said, "I'll send you some drums up, see what you think of them." And I was playing Afro congas. I wish I still had them actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened to them, but yeah. But they were great, you know. And bless him for actually sending me, you know, and believing in me and going, "I'll just send you them." You know?
No,
Yeah,
sure.
it's a real kick of energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw him recently as well and thanked him. You know, saw him and thanked
nice.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he didn't know what I was talking about, but it was a long time.
My first percussion instrument was a set of tablas.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I went down to
Straight in at the deep end.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Let them know it's-
That was the first percussion instrument I learned. You know,
Yeah,
so
amazing. Yeah.
I was never thinking of getting into percussion. It's just, you know, it happened by accident, really. And originally just to complement my drum set playing, but then just got totally into it. And also the guy next door had just been, you know, let out of the mental hospital, and if I drummed, he would come and throw stuff at the window and go just like completely crazy at me.
Oh, wow.
So I was feared for my life, to be honest with you. And so I could practice the tabla, you know.
Okay.
Oh, right.
So I remember going off to Southall, getting the drums, car broke down, 6 hours waiting for the AA. Finally got home, and you know, with the tablet,
Was that Alcoholics Anonymous?
Exactly, yeah, yeah. You get the, you know, you tune it with a hammer, you know, you play tabla, and then you with the bass tabla, you kind of go round with the end of the hammer and just straight through the head.
Oh.
Hammer. After I got home, you know,
Wow.
10-hour day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So role of a percussionist in a band, within your band setting and your experiences, Miles.
Whew. Where do I start? Well, again, back to what we were saying earlier, I guess trying to complement the drummer and then take that to the next level, trying to complement the music, which is also ultimately the aim, and finding a way to, I think, give 99% of the time a forward motion to the groove, and lift a chorus or cover a section where maybe there's a breakdown or something, and you kind of find a pattern that will sort of suit. So that's one element of the role for me.
I kind of think in you know, exactly that, but also in terms of, you know, whether I'm going to do something that's interlocking or unison or
stacking.
interlocking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And also I kind of listen for frequencies of what a drummer's playing. So if it's a real tom-tom sort of thing, low frequencies with the drum set, or with the music generally, actually, maybe not even drum set at all, but try and just think in different frequencies, so top end stuff might work. You know, if it's more of a standard kind of drum set groove type thing, then stuff in the middle is going to work pretty well, depending on how busy the hi-hat is. I might go to some top end things, but frequencies, and then like you was talking about colours, but literally, you know, colours of. Because one of the things that I find is how much the listener is thrown, you know, when there's just a sound like those bells you've got, for example, you know, that sort of sound that the listener is thrown, and they're almost taken to a different place in the world where you hear, not necessarily, you know, in an ethnic location, but, you know, a bell might just take you to, I don't know, a beach somewhere, or, you know,
Definitely
stuck up a palm tree or something. You know.
I mean, a lot of people, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I know that you do so much of the Indian stuff, and you do so much online with tabla and kanju. But I know that you do, which isn't really covered that much. You do a lot of sessions really in the pop world as well, which isn't. How would you approach that differently to, you know, working with a producer who then would you take all your sounds to a session and then work, you know, within a pop setting?
Yeah, well, I get as much information as I can.
Yeah.
Because ideally you want to be as effective with as smaller, compact setup as you can.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing, because otherwise, you know, you're confused by the array of choice, as is the client, you know. I think it's changed actually over the last, for me personally, over the last, you know, 30 years. You know, I think certainly in the pop world, you're more inclined to do less performance and more loop-based approach to things, which is a shame, because I much prefer the idea of even you get, you know, half a minute into a song and then they'll stop you and okay, that's enough. We've got that.
Yeah, sure. I did an album recording once, and it was percussion was the first thing to go on there, and all they did was play a load of click tracks at different tempos.
Yeah.
Give me eighths, give me sixteenths, give me somebody, give me inversions of that, and do no displacements, and that was it. And then when I consequently heard the album later on, I was like, wow, if I'd known the music was like that, that's not what I would have played. I could have been far more musically effective. You know, but I think there's a lot in dynamics, there's a lot in kind of hocketing, if you like, or playing in between what the drummer plays and not stepping on their feet. So if the drummer's got a load of crash cymbals, 16, 18-inch crash cymbals, you don't go along with a load of 16. You have different options, and you know, often I do fills before the drummer is likely to do a fill. So I might, you know, fill on the bar before the last bar of the section, or just afterwards to try and avoid what they're doing.
I think that's a positive that we all play kit, and you sort of feel where the drummer's going to play fills,
exactly.
and you can then work either side, or sort of not play where they're playing, or not play at all really where they're playing a fill. You know, I think that comes with because we're lucky that we've all had that experience of playing drum kit as well.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of percussionists though that would probably do that.
No.
I've seen quite a few percussionists who do play for the sake of playing things, and it's all too busy.
Yeah.
You know, it's all really busy.
But I think the relationship you have with the drummer as a percussionist is much like any other relationship. It has to be, you know, mutually respectful. You have to know how to sort of navigate yourself if you have an argument, or you know. And everybody's got an ego, so you have to kind of be aware of that and just be sensitive
and keep that in check.
And keep that in check, and just get along with people. Really.
Yeah,
or try to.
I mean, as far as setting up tracks and sounds, you know. Listening to the people that I listened to, obviously, when I was growing up, you know, people like my great friend Louis Conti and Bashiri Johnson and Ayrto, you know, it was amazing, and Paulino da Costa, it was amazing how they would colour the sounds. And then what became really weird to me was percussive being melody as well. The first time I sort of saw Mino, our friend Mino Sinero play, who just really the way he played the wave drum, the Korg wave drum, and became really creative like that, and was playing all those voices, and then playing underneath it. So he'd set up the sequence and then play along with it. I mean, that for me, when I first saw that, was like nothing I'd ever seen, you know, for me personally. And I think that as a melody, obviously, with a lot of it in Indian music, you know, that's when tabla, the voices and the sounds. To
a point, there's melody, but I mean, there's more, you know, like Miles' conga playing. Yes. You know, I find it very. You know, I think one of the most melodic players actually. Really interesting melodic parts that he comes up with. With tabla tarang, you've got, you know, you can play melody to a point. Yes. You know, in a way, there's kind of a melody between the harmonics and the different notes on tabla to a degree.
You almost play when you play. Hopefully, I use the right term. Let's just go with a raga. There's like a whole journey. There's a whole language. These long, beautiful passages. Which I don't know how you retain for a start. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean,
that's a lot of melody.
Yeah, because it's phonetics as well. You learn with phonetics. There was an experiment done with maths where they did a lot of maths with similar level students, but one was colour coded and the other wasn't. And the group that were colour coded won, you know, much higher marks in the exams. Oh, wow. And the theory was that it would go into both sides of the brain at the same time. And similar researches have been done with phonetics and rhythm.
Okay.
With the idea being that it goes into both sides of the brain. And I've tried it with some education of speaking a rhythmic passage. So even if someone's learning bongos or a non-Indian instrument, to teach them a rhythmic passage with syllables, and then a similar level student without syllables. The one without syllables takes that much longer to get it. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, really
I mean, I found that even just simple things like cascaro, you know, dun, 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 dun. I like percussion, I don't like singing. I like percussion, I don't like singing. And they instantly get it.
That's true.
It's very true.
Because you've got things to, something to hook it on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure somebody said that, you know, if you can sing it, you can say it, you can play it, you will get there, and it won't take that long,
And it's actually with tabla, there are some things, I mean, some things are so fast that you can't really say them anyway. But actually there's a correlation between being able to speak it and being able to play it. There are certain things that if I can't speak it, I can't play it. Not necessarily rhythmically, but technically.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I still haven't worked that one out.
Yeah.
So I can't play it.